Does a design require a designer?
That hateful greeny blue, that disgusting orange, that stupid goddamn voice. It could only be Prager doing a video about how goddamn totally the real. Also, I guess the logo in the corner probably gave it away too, but it's not like I would have needed it. Anyway, does a design need a designer? Sure, I'll give you that, as long as you don't think that literally everything in the universe is designed, because then we'll have a problem, me old bucket.
Keep that question in mind as we look at some new scientific discoveries about the origin of life in the universe.
Why? What does that have to do with scientific discoveries? Unless those discoveries are like some gigantic ancient machine that was found and there's evidence that it somehow formed naturally, I guess. I can't imagine a single instance where that would even matter otherwise. You know, unless you live in a world of presupposition when the conclusions you have are immutable and the only thing that matters is making sure you ask questions in a way that confirms those already held beliefs, aka Prager land, which just sounds like the shittiest theme park ever.
Since Charles Darwin published his theory of evolution in 1859,
oh, and here comes old Charlie. You know, it's always going to be something stupid when Charles Darwin is brought up, because as much as he is a giant within the history of science, a titan really, he's only ever brought up in regards to real science as history, as a thing, a topic that isn't now super relevant to our understanding of how things actually work. Unless it's religious boys who seem to bring him up at the drop of a hat as soon as evolution could possibly be on the table. I think maybe it's a flex, like, look, we actually listened in history class. Okay, great, but we're talking about science. Did you listen in that? No, of course you didn't.
many scientists have denied that design requires a designer.
No. What are you talking about? No one is denying that design requires a designer. The thing that science, and let's be frank, it didn't just happen because Darwin though, it's simply the conclusion that has come to as we learn more about how the universe works, being that the universe probably wasn't designed at all and that the things in it did not come to be via some kind of mind or the effort of some entity, but that everything we see and everything we understand in the universe so far seems to have come into being effectively on its own by the mechanisms of various physical laws. Design doesn't even come into it. Shocking that you wouldn't understand or acknowledge that. Maybe you should talk to a scientist next time. And no, that doesn't mean about a dead one.
Darwinists have long claimed that the mechanism of natural selection could generate the appearance or illusion of design without being directed or guided in any way.
See, you have heard. You just chose to ignore the words they said in order to make it seem like an unreasonable claim. Also, f*** you and your Darwinists. Seriously, show me a group of people who refer to themselves as Darwinist, and I'll show you people who aren't interested in science and only care about some old dead dude. Although seriously, I doubt many, if any, of those even exist. Personally, I find word appended with ist to refer to people who merely accept the science, you know, Darwinist, evolutionist, etc.ist, to be tantamount to a fucking slur at this point. Because it's not the sort of thing the speaker is saying because they actually are looking to engage in any kind of honest discourse, but merely dunking on their opposition. And Christy Godologists should really understand that that's my thing and they can't have it.
Recently, however, even staunch Darwinists have acknowledged that living things may have certain features that display evidence of actual, intelligent design.
Which things? Where? And who said that? And what the hell is a staunch Darwinist anyway? It's that they really think that Charles Darwin was a real person that existed. Yeah, okay. Seriously, so meaningless. But there are loads of creatures and various plants that have evidence of intelligent design. Guided evolution has been happening for literally all of history, and probably well before that, but that's not the same thing as creation type intelligent design because it was done by humans. And you know, intelligent is a bit of a stretch, but yeah, they did do that. Although I doubt that's your point. Your point is probably much more, what's the word? Wrong and stupid, and probably in no small part, lies.
Though their ideas about who designed life on Earth are, well, a bit out there.
Is it any more out there than infinite magic man make life because bored of forever and also really care about you as an individual and whether or not you like to play with your junk? Because I mean, it would have to be pretty goddamn wild to be more ridiculous than that shit.
Some prominent scientists have proposed that space aliens designed and then transported life to Earth.
Oh, right. Panspermia. Okay, I thought this was going to be something that, like, in any way, shape, or form was accepted, but something that is at best scientifically possible, and that's about it. Fuck's sake, come on, man. It's like a fun hypothesis at best now, and at worst is completely unsupported by any actual tangible evidence. Although, to give it its due, creatures existing in the universe and fucking about with science juice is plausible because we already have a bunch of those doing that stuff on Earth already. Whereas, compared to your God did it thing, we have yet to see a God do any of the it at all.
Evolutionary biologist and noted atheist Richard Dawkins has even floated this idea.
Oh, for fuck's... If it's not Darwin, it's Dawkins. Why can't you people ever quote a goddamn paper? The things people say about science is not science. End of story. It's their opinions on the subject, correct or not. Also, what Dawkins said about it was, when pressed for some sort of outside Earth possibility of how life could have come to be, sans abiogenesis, was that he supposed that aliens could have done it, but like seriously, that's not what he thinks happened. That's just a cherry-picked talking point that you dipshits like to pull out in order to misrepresent his beliefs. You know, lying. I really shouldn't have given you that probably, should I?
Suggesting that extraterrestrials may be responsible for a possible signature of intelligence in life. Indeed, no less a scientific genius than Francis Crick.
Wait, so you call these guys scientific geniuses, but because this is an idea that goes against what you want to be true, then it couldn't possibly be true. But, like, assuming they actually said and believed this and there was actual strong evidence to back it up, what if, and get this right, these fucking geniuses knew something you didn't about science? And again, their opinions aren't scientific facts per se, but it's usually a good bet that if you look into what they said, there's probably going to be something on it within their own fields of expertise, and shouldn't necessarily be dismissed out of hand just because you prefer but God though.
Who helped discover DNA, also proposed the idea that ETs seeded life on Earth to set the evolutionary process in motion.
Wow, that's actually true. Crick and another fella who I'm going to butcher his name, Orgel, presented directed panspermia as a plausible explanation for the origins of life on Earth. However, with a massive caveat being that they described directed panspermia as highly unorthodox proposal and bold speculation. That's not exactly the, this is what scientists say happened. Let's all laugh at them while we masturbate over our book that said God sacrificed himself to forgive the sins that he made us do. Just saying.
If true, we have an intergalactic Johnny Appleseed to thank.
Remember, folks, I called them scientific geniuses. That means I respect them, and am not trying to belittle these people. And now I'm putting up a saucepan on an alien's head to show how full of shit I am, because I can't help but be dishonest with my honesty.
For starting the chain reaction that has taken us from inanimate matter to Shakespeare.
Part of the reason that panspermia is kind of a pointless theory, in my personal and very sexy opinion, is in the grand scheme of things, it's just kind of shifting the goalposts back a bit. Like, okay, fine, aliens did humans, that's great. But I've heard that apparently just going on with the directed panspermia idea would help free up science guys from having to figure out where life came from, but that doesn't make any sense. A, while we still don't know what's correct, we're still going to be trying to figure it out because being right is like kind of important and useful. And B, it wouldn't stop people trying to figure out how the aliens came to be. So interesting, but let's just figure out how life came from non-life, yeah? Chop chop sciences, I have spoken.
So why have these scientists considered this seemingly far-fetched possibility?
Is it because they would rather believe anything other than the very logical and sensible idea that God invented light before he made the sun? And that is a perfectly reasonable explanation for the origins of the universe, and not the type of thing that people who don't know how the anything works would come up with. And not that continuing to believe that over actually plausible ideas makes you a bit of a dumbass.
Because they have encountered a big mystery they can't explain.
What are you talking about? They literally did explain it. In fact, they have lots of explanations, not just one. Now, we don't know if any of these explanations are correct, but again, they are plausible. And I'm sorry if you are a religious guy and you want to think that God did it because that gives you comfort for some fucking reason. I ain't gonna stop you, but the second you tell me that shit is more plausible than life exists, so other life could exist elsewhere, you have really jumped the shark, mate.
It turns out that even the simplest living cells aren't simple at all.
It turns out, we've known that for a while now, and I'm pretty sure it was scientists doing science who figured that out, not idiots beating themselves over the head with an old book, somehow brain damaging themselves in just the right way to guess that's how things are. Because not gonna lie, that would be a miracle. A miracle how that person hadn't been locked away for their own safety. Can miracles be bad things?
And that discovery has made it extremely difficult to explain the origin of life.
No, it hasn't. What are you talking about? The complexity of life is handily explained by evolution. In fact, the complexity of life kind of has nothing to do with where non-life turned into life. And remember, complexity is not a sign of anything other than complexity. You can make a machine that is incredibly complex to do a very simple task, but if you're trying to do a simple task intelligently, you make that shit as simply as possible. Fewer moving parts, not more, so there's less to go wrong. If anything, the overcomplication of life as we know it is a sure sign that no intelligent creature made life. Only an idiot would make anything that badly. Or, a web designer.
Recall from biology class that Crick and his partner James Watson discovered the structure of the DNA molecule.
Recall from biology class. There's so many things wrong with that sentence. All of them to do with the audience for your channel. First off, like any of them were fucking listening. And more importantly, it was probably so long ago that either they couldn't recall if they tried, or that the genome thing wasn't even done yet. Oh, and a bonus would be that they probably went to Idiot Jesus Bible University and Snack Bar, so any actual biology was replaced with a pamphlet that said, if you don't think God did it, you're a bad person.
When they did, they also realized that the chemical subunits in DNA function like letters in a written language or digital symbols in a computer code.
Like similar to, an analog of. Not exactly the fucking same, because I know where you're going with this, and no, just because people can understand something kinda in the way they already do a thing, doesn't make it exactly the same thing. It's just about helping people to understand it. Also, even if it was exactly the same thing, well, then why does that have to mean, aha, therefore gotta make the people code, and not this kind of code just happens to be a way of doing that humans discovered how to do, and so did nature. The end.
As Bill Gates has explained, DNA is like a computer program, but far, far more advanced than any software we've ever created.
Ah yes, of course, Bill Gates, that famous biologist. His opinions on things to do with DNA and evolution are definitely a thing that happened. How very, very useful. Seriously, you lot and your quotes, they only get worse and worse, don't they? Not even as good as an argument from authority, just arguments from some guy.
Which kind of suggests a master programmer.
I mean, it doesn't, because it's an opinion of a person, but even if it were a fact, all it would say is that DNA is more complex than the code we currently have. But again, there's a reason you wouldn't want that. Simplicity is elegance, and elegant in design is a more powerful demonstration of intelligence than a big pile of nonsense in the shape of a person.
Could such an intelligent designer have been an alien, as Crick and Dawkins have suggested?
Who cares? Alien, sentient bottle of whiskey, the concept of oof. Any of those things could be the thing that created life. None of them could be. All of them could be. But we don't know, so we keep looking. If you had your way, we would stop looking because You know where it came from. You know how and why it was made. So why bother doing any of that science shit? It's intellectual laziness of the highest order.
Perhaps, but there are problems with this explanation. Big ones.
He looks so fucking smug about it. Like we don't already know that. And we already know this shit because science guys are the one that came up with them and pointed out all the things that are wrong with it. The biggest of all being, there's no evidence for it. I wonder if he will bring that one up without cottoning on to the fact, well, the evidence for God, similarly scant.
First, the spaceship theory does not actually solve the problem of the ultimate origin of life.
Spaceship theory? Who said it was about spaceships? Is this you being dishonest again to make sure people don't give it whatever small amount of respect it deserves? Because you'd think you'd use its proper name. Unless, of course, he just doesn't know it. When, well, I wouldn't exactly be surprised.
In fact, it dodges the whole question of where this super smart alien came from.
Yeah, a dumbass like me thought of that the first time I heard it. You seriously don't think the actual science guys don't fucking know that? You talk as if this is something that you are pointing out that no one had noticed. But I'm betting you didn't even think about it until someone else pointed out for you. Probably someone who actually understands the science, and it will never have occurred to you that maybe you should just stay out of it.
How did he evolve? How did the first life and the genetic information necessary to produce it first arise on his planet?
Yeah, like I said, that's why I wouldn't personally pay it much mind, even if it did turn out to be true. It's just, okay, now let's figure out how that life formed. You're not winning anyone over but the already die-hardest of God lovers with this. Well, I tell a lie, maybe you'll get a few morons. But honestly, you can fucking have them.
Wait, before you go, I have something super important to tell you. It's life or death. It will change everything forever. Nope, wait, it's gone. Oh well, probably wasn't important. But while I have you, don't forget to comment, subscribe and notify. And if you want more of my smexy voice, check out Mrs. Six's channel Spoonstaff Stories, where I narrate and voice all the videos, and she does the work. And if you want to support the channel, check out the merch store for cool t-shirts, or check out Patreon, memberships and PayPal to support directly. Finally, follow me on the medias of social to get completely pointless guff and to keep up on the latest releases. Oh, I just remembered what I was going to tell you. Whatever you do, don't touch the